a month for unlimited talk, text, and data. Switch to the carrier ranked #1 in network coverage and customer satisfaction and get unlimited everything for just $35 a month. Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit Consumer Cellular online or in-store today. Price includes $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. Taxes and fees apply. Data speeds reduced after 35 gigabytes. Rankings done by 2025 ACSI survey.
Hey everybody, it's Stephen A. Smith, and everyone knows my feelings on Cowboys fans. But really, Justin Kenner, you're a Cowboys fan and a Browns fan? Good Lord have mercy. I don't know what the hell to do with y'all. I really don't.
Exactly, Stephen A. He's been here for 10 years, and we're still trying to figure him out. The Justin Kenner Show, weekdays at 3 p.m., right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. You want hot takes?
No, I'm not going to apologize to Ryan Day. Everything we said about Ryan Day up until the playoffs was true.
Not bad. Come on, Kenner. You can do better than that.
To be fair, of all the elite quarterbacks in the NFL, Joe Burrow is the least accomplished.
Getting better.
1,000,000%. I 1,000,000% believe that the Dayton Flyers are afraid of the Wright State Raiders. That's why they come up with every excuse in the book not to play them.
There it is. The hottest take of them all. It's the Justin Kenner Show, presented by Frickers, live on 1410 ESPN Radio.
All right, we need to have a serious heart-to-heart about these Cincinnati Reds. The Reds are doing something. I just don't know how significant it is. And this is where you guys come into play. The Reds fans. The Reds fans are doing something that I did not think that they were actually going to do. You know, coming out of the All-Star break, I was saying all the things that they need to do to make things interesting, but I really didn't have any faith that they were going to be able to do any of those things to make things interesting. And yet, here we are. Nick Krall, the president of baseball operations for your Cincinnati Reds, of course, had an interesting quote that came out earlier today following the Reds' first win ever in Seattle. And I don't mean individual game. Like, they have never won a series against the Seattle Mariners before in Seattle. So they, in franchise history, the Reds won their first series at Seattle, which I thought was strange. Unless I read that incorrectly, but I thought that was a strange accomplishment from the Reds, but that's where we're at. But with that being said, the Reds have done exactly what they are supposed to coming out of the All-Star break. They were supposed to either just get trucked over or show some life and no in between. And I think that the Reds have actually looked pretty good. Emilio Pagan, back-to-back saves. Elly De La Cruz has been, Elly De La Cruz continuing to get big hit after big hit and contribute, and his production's through the roof. Sal Stewart, not playing like a rookie. He looks like a seasoned vet that is trying to help put his team on his shoulders. You know, great contributions from the rotation. The bullpen has been but they've gotten it done. Suarez, 5 home runs in the month of July, has looked pretty damn good coming out of the All-Star break. Now, it's only 6 games, but I don't really care because only 6 games, you only have a couple of weeks to work with. We knew it was going to be a couple of weeks that the Reds had to work with to convince the front office that they were going to do something different and look different. They have to convince that front office that they are worth investing into, because for the majority of the first half, I didn't think that team looked like a team that deserved to have anybody invest in them at all. But I'm changing my tune a bit, but I can't sit here and ignore 2.5, 3 months of baseball and erase that and ignore that and only pay attention to 6 games of baseball. But those are the only games that matter. Those are the only games that matter. The Reds, to their credit, over the last 6 games coming out of the All-Star break, they've cut their deficit by 2.5 games. It's hard to make up games. That's why when they were down 8 games out of a playoff spot, I thought that's going to be really difficult to dig themselves out of that hole. But since game 1 against the Colorado Rockies, again, they took 2 of 3 in Colorado, took 2 of 3 in Seattle, and now with an off night tonight, prepare for a 3-game set in St. Louis against an NL Central foe. But before we focus on that series, the Reds have made up 2.5 games in the last week and a half. In the last week, the Reds have made up, they made up 2 games over the weekend and made up a half game over the last couple of days. and they take that momentum into the Cardinals series. And the reason that is significant is because the Reds are 5.5 games of a playoff spot. And the trade deadline is still, what is today? The 23rd. Right, it's the 23rd. And so the Reds trade deadline is about a week and a half away. And the Reds are going to have about 7 to 9 more games, I believe, to work with in that time span. I didn't go count, but they're going to have a good chunk of games in that time span. And if they continue playing at the level of which they're playing, if you're continuing to get contributions from Ellie De La Cruz and Sal Stewart and Eugenio Suarez and Emilio Pagan starting to look like the guy that the Reds, valued at $10 million per year, if you're going to do all that stuff, then, it's one of those things where I think that the Reds can continue to keep this momentum going and put the front office in a position where they are going to be a little aggressive. There's a lot of things that have been said over the last couple of days that have surprised me. This quote right here from the Reds president of baseball operations, Nick Krall, said this with the upcoming trade deadline looming. Nick Krall said that we are going to get through this road trip and then we're going to have some discussions on Monday about where we're going. I feel like an off day today and a 3-game series in St. Louis over the weekend, I feel like the 2026 season, I feel like the playoffs for the Reds begin tomorrow. The Reds have to win this series. I believe if the Reds lose this series and they continue to dig themselves further and further in the NL Central, and it's one of those where, okay, there's nothing cooking here. This team is the same as the front half. But after taking 2 or 3 from Colorado, 2 or 3 from Seattle, you go and take 2 or 3, or heaven forbid, even more against the Cardinals over the weekend. Now, all of a sudden, you might have my attention if you're the Cincinnati Reds. Now, all of a sudden, there's something to work with here. I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun food, sports, and spirits. But when you look at those wild card standings, the fact that the Reds have climbed all the way back to within 5.5 after trailing by as many as 9 at one point, I think that's pretty significant. And you look at the teams ahead of them right now. A lot of teams are playing bad baseball. Okay. The Cardinals are a half game out of a playoff spot. They've lost 6 of their last 10. All right. You look at the Miami Marlins. The Marlins have lost 9 of their last 10. All right. The Padres have lost 6 of their last 10. All of those teams are ahead of the Cincinnati Reds right now. You go and take 2 or 3 from the Cardinals and you get back to within 4.5 games, and you maybe find a way to climb to within 4 to 3.5 games of a wild card spot by the trade deadline. I think that's going to convince the front office to be a little bit more aggressive at this deadline. I'm very intrigued. I think that the Reds have gotten this front office's attention. There were some other interesting quotes in the article that referenced trying to continue to build a contender, not just for the second half of this season, but for next season, and for next season with Terry Francona. It's the first reference of Terry Francona managing beyond this season. I know he's contracted through next season, but we all knew that the Francona run was going to be a 2 to 3 year run. At times it's felt like this has been a lot for him, that this team just hasn't clicked and that they might need to go in a different direction. There's already been a reference of building a contender for Terry Francona in 2027. So that's an interesting one right there as far as the mindset, which, by the way, whether you like Terry Francona or not, and I love Terry Francona, I believe as we sit here right now, if Terry Francona is coming back or if there's talks of bringing him back, they're not trying to blow this up, in my opinion. I don't think that they're trying to sell off too much. I think that they are going to try and add. That doesn't mean that they won't move on from some of these expiring deals as we talked about. All I'm saying is I believe that if there is talks, and it sounds like this is the first time I've heard of mentions of Terry Francona's future in Cincinnati continuing to manage, I just don't see this team starting. I mean, I see so much the sky is falling on social media about to start another rebuild. I don't think they're starting another rebuild. I still think they're retooling. A complete rebuild is moving on from Hunter Green, moving on from Ellie De La Cruz, moving on from Nick Lodolo and everyone else in that rotation. Like, I don't understand why people keep saying about to start another rebuild. I don't think that's the case. Moving on from Hunter Green would not be starting another rebuild, and I don't think that they are going to move on from Hunter Green at this trade deadline. I do believe they're going to kind of take some calls on him, but I actually think Hunter Green, if you do trade him in the offseason, which I don't necessarily say I want, but I would understand it, I actually think that would put them in a significantly better position, assuming that they would use him to go get veteran bats in this lineup that can contribute right away. I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun food, sports, and spirits. What up? Slick on YouTube. He's watching on the Justin Kinner Show YouTube channel. Slick says 87 wins if they win 2 out of 3 the rest of the year. 87 wins. Yeah. Think about that. If the Reds if they won every series in the back half of the season, if they took 2 of 3 of every series to the back half of the season, Slick, I didn't do that math. I'm going to take your word for it. But that is kind of wild that's how much that they've shot themselves in the foot. But I really don't care about the win total as far as that. Like, the bottom line is all these other teams are keeping the Reds in it as well. I've said this all season. As much as we want to talk about how bad the Reds have been, I do think the focus also needs to continue to be on how bad is everybody else that the team that we've watched all year is somehow still mathematically in this. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. The Reds have not looked good, and that's crazy. And the Reds are not going to take 2 of 3 of every series moving forward. I'm praying they could take 2 of 3 this weekend against the Cardinals. But the fact, and I'm going to take your word for it, Slick, if that's the case, that's pretty wild that the Reds, if they took 2 of 3 of every series for the remainder of the season, that would put them at 87 wins. That's kind of wild. That's not a lot. I mean, if they finish with 87 wins after as bad as they've been, I'd say that's pretty damn good. But that is wild that's how much they've dug a hole for themselves. But yeah, like I said, we can continue to talk about that, but it's these other teams. Like I said, when you take a look at those standings, when you look at the teams around the Reds, the Marlins have lost 9 of 10. The Padres have lost 6 of their last 10. All right. The Cardinals, who the Reds are about to start a series with tomorrow, they've lost 6 of their last 10. Right now, the hottest teams are the hottest 2 teams in the National League right now, as far as the wild card picture is concerned. The Diamondbacks are 8-2 in their last 10. And then I guess you got Pittsburgh, who's 6-4, but Pittsburgh's a half game out of a playoff spot. But that's why these series are so big. The Reds, 47-54, 5.5 games out of a playoff spot, going up against the Cardinals, who are a half game out. To start chipping away at this thing, you got to start beating the teams who are ahead of you in the standings that you're in this race with. And the Reds have the Cardinals coming up. All right, the Reds have the Cardinals coming up. In fact, I mean, when you look at what's coming up as far as the schedule goes, they have the Cardinals coming up. You have Pittsburgh around the corner. The Nationals are ahead of you in the picture as well. You're going to have the Nationals. You have Miami coming up mid-August. You have 2 series with the Cardinals over the next 4 weeks. You have Pittsburgh coming up again, like I mentioned, Miami, the Nationals, Arizona. Every team that is ahead of you is San Diego. Every team that is ahead of you in this playoff race right now, the Reds face them all between now, tail end of July, and early September. So over the next 4 to 6 weeks, the Reds will have at least 1 series with every team that's within 5.5 games ahead of them in these standings. They have a shot. Chase Burns, Hunter Green. All right. Like Andrew Abbott, I don't know what they're going to do with Brady Singer. I was a big advocate of moving on from him, but he's almost been so dang good that it's kind of one of those things where I sit back and say, if you are in the midst of a playoff race, why would you move on from Brady Singer? Well, you have to get something back, but man, this is why, like, the Reds coming out and taking 2 or 3 from Colorado, 2 or 3 from Seattle, and you have one more final audition, it seems, according to Nick Kroll. They're going to so if you're just tuning in, by the way, the quote that caught my attention, Nick Kroll said that they're going to meet on Monday and kind of discuss where they're at that point. To me, that says we're going to see how we look in this Cardinal series. They look good against Colorado, and it's Colorado. I don't care. The Reds played a lot of bad teams in that first half of the season, and they looked as bad, if not worse, than some of those bad teams. The Reds looked better than Seattle. They looked better than Colorado. Will they look better than St. Louis this upcoming weekend? Well, their season kind of depends on it. But 5.5 games, they were 8 games out of a playoff spot when the second half of the season started, just a weekend and some change ago. And now they've made up 2.5, 3 games. They're 5.5 games out of a playoff spot. And they have, over the next 4 weeks, they have a series with the Padres, a series with the Nationals, Marlins, Pirates, 2 with the Cardinals, Diamondbacks. Every team ahead of them right now, is if you see it on the screen, the Reds will play them in the next 4 weeks. The Reds have an opportunity to make some noise and crawl back in this. And not even crawl back in it. They're already back in it. 5.5 games, you're in it. But to continue to chip away. Matthew, I hope you're well. Matthew's watching on the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page. Matthew says, is there a move that would signal a rebuild to you outside of trading multiple key players? Matthew, I don't think there's, look, if you're asking if there's one move that the Reds could make to signal a rebuild, it's a move that I guarantee you they will not make, and that's Ellie De La Cruz or Sal Stewart. They're not moving on from those. I don't think this team's rebuilding. Even if the Reds don't make a splash move at the deadline, I don't think that they're rebuilding. There was a quote from Nick Kroll over the weekend that was talking about that their goal at the deadline is to try to help improve this team in the, right now and in the future, but also wanting to, continue to improve this team to help build a bigger contender for Terry Francona next season. Referencing the future of Terry Francona, that was interesting, and mentioning how continuing to try to build a contender. Like, I think there's a lot more forward thinking about competing now and not rebuilding. I can confidently tell you this team's not rebuilding, but I can't confidently tell you that they're good. I could just, based on everything I've read and the way I perceive it, doesn't mean I'm right, but the way I don't perceive that they're about to do a rebuild. Tell me if I'm wrong. It's okay. Everyone tells me I'm wrong all the time, but you know what I mean? Like, there's no chance this team's rebuilding. That's not me saying that this team is good, by the way. I just think that they're looking to add more pieces. That's all. But they've had opportunities to do it in the past, and I hope that they've realized that, hey, they weren't aggressive enough. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Phil Steele with the College Football Preview magazine for the 26th season. We're going to talk Big Ten football with him coming up around the corner. Looking forward to that. But I want to read your text and get to more of your comments in the chat. We even have time to take a couple calls if you'd like. 937-518-1410. 937-518-1410. Give me a call. Let's talk Reds for a few more moments, and then we'll switch gears to college football with the guy I'm really looking forward to talking to, and that's Phil Steele. Coming up around the corner, it's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. We'll be right back.
That refresh you've been putting off until the right deal came along? It's here! Wayfair's Black Friday and July sale is happening now, so you can finally get the style you've been waiting for less. Get up to 80% off area rugs and up to 60% off outdoor and bedroom furniture. Shop Wayfair's huge selection of styles and find the piece to fit your style, budget, and space. Plus, free shipping. Black Friday in July ends July 27th. Shop today at wayfair.com.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
This is an important notice to all U.S. taxpayers. The IRS is giving away billions of dollars in tax savings through a federal program called the Fresh Start Initiative to aid delinquent taxpayers. This initiative was established for anyone facing financial hardship and unable to pay their back taxes. Qualifying and enrolling in this program will stop all collections, settle your delinquent tax problem, and even reduce what you owe by thousands of dollars. Call the hotline at People's Tax Relief to see if you qualify and get this free information by dialing 800-924-7415. If you have unfiled tax returns or cannot afford to pay your personal or business back taxes, you can now get the help you need. One simple phone call can resolve your tax problem and save you thousands of dollars. To see if you qualify and to get this important free information, call 800-924-7415. 800-924-7415. 800-924-7415.
The greatest shopping event of the summer is here. Macy's Black Friday and July sale is back, where you'll find 40 to 60% savings on all the hottest summer fashion and more. Don't wait. Get first dibs on everything you love about Black Friday shopping, from unbeatable sales across the store to curated styles for the season at lower than low prices. Head to Macy's now for a fun-filled holiday shopping adventure smack dab in the middle of summer. It's the can't miss sale of the month, Black Friday and July at Macy's. Savings off select prices. Exclusions apply.
Upgrade to a new quality bath remodel in less time with minimal inconvenience and for less money with Bath Creations in as little as 2 days. We do it right. There are a lot of others boasting about bath remodels these days. Well, Bath Creations' expert craftsmanship and customer service speaks for itself. Plus, all first responders, veterans, and active military will save an additional $500 off your purchase. Visit our beautiful showroom at 8741 North Kimmel Road in Clayton or at mybathcreations.com and upgrade your new bath today.
ABS, does that mean always bring snacks? TPMS, does that mean tiny potholes make squeaks? AWD, does that mean all wheels are dancing? No, that's not right. But here's the truth. Carroll Works Tire knows the real meanings and will keep your car safe without all the jargon. Carroll Works Tire, tires, service, and tire values you can count on. Find us online at c-wtire.com or talk to a real human at 937-461-5441.
$5,000 sign-on bonus. That's right. My friends at Cordell Transportation are now hiring experienced Class A CDL drivers with excellent work history. If that's you, apply now. Cordell Transportation offers home daily dedicated lanes, no-touch freight, and brand new equipment, plus a $5,000 sign-on bonus paid over 18 months, paid orientation, and company 401k with company match. Apply online at CordellTransportation.com. Cordell Transportation, driven to succeed.
Save big money on your next painting project now at Menards. Rust-Oleum Stops Rust 5-in-1 spray paint lets you choose from 5 unique spray patterns with a twist of the dial, so you can get a professional, corrosion-resistant finish on every project. Save big money on Rust-Oleum spray paint now at Menards. Plus, check out our weekly flyer on menards.com for all the great deals happening now.
Save big money at Menards. At the Montgomery County Veterans Service Commission, we help veterans and their dependents navigate the process of applying for benefits administered by the VA. We can assist with VA claims, pensions, and a variety of benefits, including emergency financial assistance, transportation, and legal services. If you are a veteran or a spouse of a veteran, a wide range of services may be available to you, always at no cost to the veteran. We are honored and proud to serve all Miami Valley veterans. Contact us today at 937-225-4801.
You're still glowing, flirting, grooving. You've still got it. But your immune system weakens as you age, making it harder to fight illnesses like pneumococcal pneumonia and RSV. Vaccines are a key part of any health routine and can help protect you from getting really sick. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. See more at PfizerForAll.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
KTH Parts Industries in St. Paris is now hiring and has increased the hourly wage of $22.48. That's right. KTH is looking for elite production associates, including press operators, overhead crane operators, and forklift operators. Apply today. KTH offers excellent benefits, including medical, dental, and 401k. KTH is a short drive from Bellefonte, Troy, Piqua, and Urbana. Upgrade your career and be valued by a company that really cares about you. Apply now at kth.net, an equal opportunity employer.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
ZipRecruiter.
Here's the deal. The government is over $38 trillion in debt, which means the IRS isn't slowing down. And the tax code is complex and unforgiving. So it's not surprising if you're one of the millions of Americans that owe back taxes to the IRS. Unfortunately, they're the world's most powerful collection agency, with the ability to garnish your wages, seize your bank accounts, and even take your home or business. But don't be stressed or worried any longer. We're Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted tax resolution firm. We have resolved over $3 billion in tax debt for our clients. Our award-winning professionals deal with the IRS every single day, protecting our clients and preparing them for the best possible resolution. For tax help you need, for tax help you can trust, give Optima a call today.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Now, back to the Justin Kinner Show, right here on ESPN Dayton, 1410 Wing AM.
Phil Steele going to join us here in about 15 minutes. Keep that in mind. We're going to talk all things college football. Phil Steele, the 2026 College Football Preview magazine is officially out. Make sure you take advantage of that. And again, just a reminder, when it does come to the College Football Preview magazine, you can, of course, get that at Barnes & Noble and Books A Million. Barnes & Noble and Books A Million. If you want the hard copy of it, you could order it, of course, at philsteele.com. But you can go and you can order it from him, or you can go and pick it up at any Barnes & Noble or Books A Million locations. So keep that in mind. But there's also the digital copy, which you can get at, philsteele.com as well. So plenty of ways to get and take that in. We're going to talk all college football coming up around the corner. I just wanted to open up with baseball just because it was intriguing. I thought that some of the comments from Nick Krall were interesting. Here's the deal. If Nick Krall would have come out, and this was an article from Mark Sheldon, covers the Reds for MLB. If it was a quote from Nick Krall where he's saying, yes, we're still going to, it's an opportunity to give more of our young guys, everyday at bats and opportunities out in the field. And, we're going to move on from some expiring contracts. We would all be like, yeah, that makes sense. But they kept talking about, what if this team shows a little life coming out of the deadline? What if they show a little life? Would it change the approach of the front office? I think the life that the Reds have shown coming out of the All-Star break, I do think that it has kind of made the front office sit up in their seat just a little. 5.5 games out of a playoff spot. This team was back by as many as 9 at one point. They were down. They were back 8 games at the All-Star break. They were 16.5 out of the division, 8 games out of the wild card. Now they're still significantly back in the division, but they're not winning that division. That's the Brewers. Let's just forget about that. But the wild card is very much so alive. Like I said earlier, the Marlins have lost 9 of their last 10. The Cardinals have lost 6 of their last 10. The Padres have lost 6 of their last 10. Look, and the Pirates are 6-4 in their last 10. Like, they're okay. Nobody is trying to put a stranglehold on this wild card picture right now. Everybody is vulnerable. And the fact that the Reds have made up 2.5 games in just 2 series, and that's a lot of, in my opinion, I think that they've covered a lot of ground. And I thought that taking 2 or 3 in back-to-back series, I thought maybe they'd get to about 7, maybe 6.5 games out. They're 5.5 games out. You take 2 or 3 from the Cardinals, who are struggling right now, by the way. Now you're starting to inch closer and closer. Now I could see this team being within 3.5 of a playoff spot come the deadline. Now I think that that to me is the type of team that you go make a move for. You have Hunter Green, you have Chase Burns, you have Andrew Abbott, Brady Singer, who is an arm that I would completely understand if the Reds decided to move on from, but he's been pretty damn good. You're not going to extend him. I get that. Maybe you do. I don't envision that being the case, though. Again, they get Brady Singer in the deal 2 years ago for Rookie of the Year Jonathan India, or former Reds Rookie of the Year Jonathan India. But man, if you are within 3.5 of a playoff spot, okay, and you have a rotation that features Hunter Green and Chase Burns, and Brady Singer's been pretty damn good. Andrew Abbott's pretty solid. I know that Rhett Lauder got rocked over the weekend, which, by the way, we kind of figured that would be the case. I figured that we would see Rhett Lauder get hit pretty hard, mainly because of the fact that he hasn't thrown an extended outing. In fact, I think that's who's on the mound. Yeah, Rhett Lauder's on the mound tomorrow. I'd be very intrigued to see what he looks like. But Rhett Lauder originally was moved to the bullpen when Hunter Green came off the IL. Because they had too many cooks in the kitchen. So they moved Rhett Lauder to the bullpen, and that was because of the depth that they have. But they have a lot of solid starting pitching. They could have afforded, they were in a position, it was a luxury to be in a position to move Rhett Lauder to the bullpen. But the problem is when Nick Lodolo experienced his 126,000 blister of his career, they had to scramble and kind of, readjust some things. And that was the first extended outing that he got. And technically it wasn't very extended because he got rocked early and didn't go very deep into that game. But you will hear many pitchers say, hey, when you go into the bullpen, and in fact, it was really so much more about the All-Star game too. They were talking about, it's tough to hit in the All-Star game because if you're Hunter Green or you're one of these elite starting pitchers, when you're on the mound trying to go 5, 6, 7 innings, you can't be all gassed the entire time. But when you're going to be, when you're going to pitch in the All-Star game, you're going to get 1 inning. So those guys can go out there and be all gassed the entire time. They could just slam their foot on the gas for 3 batters for 1 inning. They're not pitching so when you're facing that starting pitching, you're facing them like times 10 because they're not trying to save themselves for a 5, 6, 7 inning outing. They're going all out. Same thing in the bullpen. You throw different in the bullpen because you could be more aggressive. You don't have as many innings and pitches to worry about. It's a different game when you go from that to all of a sudden just starting out of nowhere. And I'm hoping that's why he got rocked, and I'm hoping he looks more settled in tomorrow because, damn it, the Reds need that game 1 against the Cardinals. But Nick Krall says, we're going to get through this road trip, and then we're going to have some discussions on Monday about where we're going. Nick Krall on this Reds road trip. But let's be clear. The road trip was a 9-game road stand to come out of the All-Star break. He makes this comment as they wrap up the series with Seattle. They won the series at Colorado. They won the series at Seattle. And he's saying at the end of this road trip, let's be clear, because they've won back-to-back series and they've stunk so much against the division in that first half, what he's really saying is, yeah, well, we really want to see what they do against the Cardinals. You go take 2 or 3 from the Cardinals and come out of the gates with 3 straight series wins, including a road win against a Cardinals team that is a half game out of a playoff spot right now. I'd say that's enough to finally get the front office's attention and say, maybe let's not completely blow this up. Don't get rid of Suarez at this deadline, who has more home runs in the month of July than he had all the previous months combined. He's starting to look healthy, and he's starting to swing a good bat. Sal Stewart's swinging a hell of a bat. Ellie De La Cruz has been phenomenal, right? Stevenson's been a lot of guys have stepped up in the lineup. Emilio Pagan, back-to-back outings, picking up a save. The starters outside of Rhett Lauder been very, very good. So Nick Krall goes on to say he says that leaves us just a little over a week. We'll discuss where we are going, and then make some decisions. So like I said, to me, this Cardinal series, it's a playoff series. Reds, if you want your season to mean something for the month of August and the month of September, you have to win this weekend. I truly believe that. You beat the Cardinals this coming up weekend. I believe that on Monday, this meeting that Nick Krall's referencing is going to be all about, all right, let's start scouring the market and seeing what we need to do to improve this team. I truly believe that. Based on those comments, Nick Krall says, we want to see where we're at on Monday after this road trip. And from there, we'll discuss where we're going. And what that says to me is you get blanked by the Cardinals and dominated by a division opponent like you've done the entire season up to this point. There's no point in trying to continue to put makeup on a pig. Do what you got to do. But they take 2 or 3 from the Cardinals. They sweep the Cardinals. They do what they're supposed to. I believe that this team's going to go in a different direction. They're 5.5 out of a wild card spot. everyone above them they're not playing good baseball right now. And the Reds play every team in front of them between now and the end of August. Or early September, I'm sorry. So over the next 4 or 5 weeks, the Reds play every team that's ahead of them in the wild card standings. They're 5.5 out. They have Hunter Green. They have Chase Burns. You have Andrew Abbott. Brady Singer's been pitching well. That's going to put the front office in a spot where they can get something of value for him, but he might be more valuable to them if they're truly in a playoff race. Emilio Pagan's been he looks like the closer there's a reason that the Reds with limited funds dedicated $10, $20 million towards him because they knew the importance of having a closer. And we saw the significance of that in the month of April when the Reds had all those 1 and 2 run wins. And then we saw how devastating it is not to have that in his absence and with a bullpen that was struggling. So this series with the Cardinals, this series this weekend, tomorrow is game 1 of a playoff series, in my opinion. It's a playoff series with the Cardinals. If you win this series, your team's going to go I shouldn't say it that way. They're going to go all in. I don't know what all in means for the Reds, but I truly believe they win this series against the Cardinals. I believe, based on those comments from Nick Krall, this team's going to be looking to strengthen this roster and not weaken it. You lose this series by Eugenio Suarez. It was kind of cool for a little bit, but thank you. Thanks for nothing, I guess. All right, Brady Singer, it's been a pleasure doing business with you. Right? Nathaniel Lowe, shout out to you. Fun to watch, but see ya. I think it's fair. Tyler Stevenson, it's been a hell of a ride, I think. Go play somewhere else. This series is the most important series of the season, in my opinion, up to this point, because you win, it's a completely different direction and vibe of that front office. They lose, I think it's all about the Bengals at this point. So we'll see. Big series tomorrow that gets underway with the Reds and the Cardinals. Let's talk college football. Phil Steele just released his 2026 college football preview magazine. You can get it at Books A Million, any Barnes & Noble location. You can get it at philsteele.com. But you can, of course, get all your football information from him as we talk all things Big Ten and Ohio State football with Phil Steele. He joins us next. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers.
Do you know what to do if you're stuck on the railroad crossing? Get out of your vehicle. If a train is not approaching, find the blue and white emergency notification system sign on the traffic signs at the crossing. For help, call the number on the sign and give them the crossing number so they know your location and can alert train traffic. Remember, find the blue and white to save your life. For more information, visit oli.org.
Hello, it's John Kozik, founder and president of TurboTrack Realty, and I buy real estate as is fast for cash. Give us a call today for an all-cash offer at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000. I buy vacant properties, inherited homes, divorce situations, death in the family, apartment buildings, commercial properties. I even buy my tenants won't pay me the rent houses. Give us a call today for an all-cash offer at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000.
Does your home need a new heating and cooling system? Call William Brockman and Heating.
Justin Kenner, you're a Cowboys fan and a Browns fan? Good Lord have mercy. I don't know what the hell to do with y'all. I really don't.
Exactly, Stephen A. He's been here for 10 years, and we're still trying to figure him out. The Justin Kenner Show, weekdays at 3 p.m., right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Now, back to the Justin Kenner Show, right here on ESPN Dayton, 1410 Wing AM.
All right, everybody, we are back. We are off and rolling. It's the Justin Kenner Show. We are presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. 937-518-1410. That's the number that you can call or text, and you can jump in on the conversation. And we'll get back to your calls, back to your texts coming up here momentarily. Talking a lot of baseball, obviously, NFL camps, all that fun stuff about to get underway, but college football not too far off in the distant future, of course. And any chance we have an excuse to talk college football in July, we're definitely going to take advantage of that. And a friend of the show who's been coming on for years with us now throughout the summer when his college football preview magazine drops, none other than Mr. Phil Steele. Phil, welcome in, sir. It's been a while. How are you?
You know, I am doing great, Justin, and always enjoy our conversations, my friend.
You know, so we talk college football a lot, and, we refer to it as the off season, but I feel like when you do a job like yours, I mean, college football ends, but you're talking to every Division I coach out there pretty much. I mean, your season never ends. It's always college football for Phil Steele.
Yeah, the magazine season actually takes me 7 months. I start on it the Sunday after Thanksgiving, do the first write-through of each team. I want to know each position, where they ranked coming into last year, what happened last year, and what I look forward to upcoming year. Naturally, the third part's going to change, but the first two don't. Second one is spring, after we get the transfer portal, the freshmen, the transfer portal moves, update my write-up. And then the third is after talking to the coaches. And this year, Justin, I talked to 133 of the 138 coaches, going over their roster with them. Takes about an hour per call, go over every player, every position. But then I write my third right through, and we finally send this thing to press the first week of June. So starts in November, ends in June, a 7-long month process, but definitely a labor of love.
How many straight years is this for the magazine, Phil?
This is the 32nd year for the magazine. Good thing I started when I was 10 years old, Justin.
No kid. Do the math, everyone. Do the math. There you go. But no, with that, like you said, you talked to all of these coaches. Like, I'm sure it's significantly easier now to, these coaches kind of know, okay, we have our sit down with Phil for the preview. Like, I'm sure it's much easier now than when you were first starting. I mean, think back to when you first started doing this magazine. How tough was it to get some of these coaches to sit down and basically just be an open book about their program?
Yeah, you hit it right on the head, Justin. When I started the magazine, we were one of 30 magazines out there. I don't think any coach even knew who Phil Steele was the first year of the magazine back in 1995. Then it was in the 1990s. I went to a MAC Media Days and got to sit down with all the coaches, and I showed them my team pages, and I think that impressed them because they had every player, every stat on every player for every team. And had a good conversation. Then I went to a CUSA Media Days. Once again, met with all the coaches face to face, went over all their rosters with them. And then I started doing it by phone. And then it started to grow. I think the first couple of years, maybe 30, 40 coaches talking to, then it grew to 50, 60, 70, 80. And now, last year was 125 plus. This year we made it all the way to 133. A couple of coaches was logistics. Coach called last week. Hey, how about Tuesday at 2:00? Nope, booked. I got a coach at 2:00. How about Thursday at 4:00? Nope, couldn't do it. But hopefully one of these years we'll get to all 138.
Well, I don't think that's, again, for you to get all but 4 or 5 coaches, I'd say that's a pretty good turnout right there when it's all said and done. If you are just tuning in, it's the Justin Kenner Show live here on Dayton's ESPN Radio 1410 Wing AM. Phil Steele joining us. The College Football Preview magazine is officially out and coming on to preview, talk about and promote the magazine, of course, but also to preview all things college football. Phil, we carry Ohio State here in Dayton, a lot, Buckeye country right here in the heart of it, of course, and Ohio State's relevant, all around the country, whether you're in Buckeye country or not. But I want to talk about them because their schedule is a big talking point right now. I mean, when you look at the fact that they have to play at Indiana, they non-conference wise, you're at Texas, you're at Indiana, you're at USC, you have Oregon at home, you have Michigan at home, you have Illinois, you have Iowa on the schedule, who, are no slouches by any means. Is this, again, I know you cover all teams, but is this the toughest schedule in Ohio State history that you can think of, at least heading into a season, how it looks on paper?
Well, I tell you, Justin, it's a big upgrade from last year's schedule, and maybe the fact that last year's schedule wasn't so tough didn't have them quite prepared for the playoff. Who knows? But yeah, this year's schedule will definitely do it. I rate it the sixth toughest schedule in the country, and it's tough to get much higher than that because Ohio State doesn't play Ohio State. A lot of opponents that play Ohio State might be ranked above them, but as you mentioned, playing Texas, Indiana, USC, those are the three big names. Going into Kinnick Stadium, that'll probably be a night game. That's tough. And then at Nebraska is not going to be easy late in the year. You touched on hosting Michigan and Oregon. It is one of the toughest schedules I can remember. I'd have to go back and do the research over the 32 years and see where I rank their schedule each year, but it would have to be right up there with the very toughest.
Obviously, to get all five teams that you would have ranked ahead of Ohio State as far as strength of schedule is concerned, that everyone could check it out in the magazine. But who do you have number one? Who has the toughest schedule in all of college football this year, according to you?
You know, it's actually Texas, the team that Ohio State opens up with. And when you look at Texas, their non-conference slate, they're playing Ohio State. They also play Texas State, which I think will be one of the better teams in the Pac-12 this year. UTSA, which is a contender in the American Conference, could very well win it. And then you get into the SEC grind, playing teams like LSU, Texas A&M, and Oklahoma, all away from home, Florida, Mississippi, and Tennessee. It is a brutal schedule for Texas as well. Very few off weeks, no off weeks for them, really, because even a team like Mississippi State's much improved in the third year of their head coach.
Phil Steele with us. Phil, you know, it's interesting. A big headline, you know, earlier in the offseason was that Alabama and Ohio State were actually going to keep their home series scheduled moving forward. I was I'm in the minority. You know, the football fan in me is like, absolutely, I want to see those games. But from my perspective, looking at it, if had either of those programs come out and said we're going to go ahead and pull this this matchup off our future schedules, I would have understood it. I mean, you mentioned Texas, who was the toughest schedule this season. You know, they had a couple games they lost last year that ultimately kept them out of the playoff, but you can argue if they would have just put some random, you know, smaller school instead of Ohio State to kick off the season, they're in the playoff last year. Are you surprised that Alabama, Ohio State are keeping that series and some of the other programs that are keeping some bigger, high, profile non-conference series going?
Yeah, I think the key is going to be what the playoff committee does this year as to whether or not these teams do indeed stay on the schedule. Because if the playoff committee is just strictly going by record and 10-win teams get in over 9-win teams, then you're going to start dropping those games. But if they this year look at the fact that the Big Ten and the SEC, the two toughest conferences in college football, are each playing 9 conference games, for crying out loud, they're playing the schedules they are, then a 9-3 Texas or a 9-3 Ohio State, not saying either one's going to have that record this year, but would clearly get in over a 10-2 Big 12 team or a 10-2 ACC team. If they make that stand out, that they value the strength of schedule, then I think we'll see these matchups continue on in college football. So I think a lot depends on what the committee does this year at the end of the year.
So much about the Big Ten is always about Ohio State, not just because, you know, we're in Buckeye country, but everyone, looks at Ohio State as the face of the Big Ten. But Indiana, I mean, they've been the best storyline in college football over the last couple of years. And last year to run the table, go undefeated, win the Big Ten championship against Ohio State, and then go on to run over teams like Alabama and others to win a national championship. What's the staying power of Indiana? Was that just a Cinderella, great one-time story? What's your view of Indiana? What's their staying power? Are they still a perennial threat this year? Are they a legit contender in the Big Ten?
Curt Cignetti's still the head coach there?
Yes, absolutely.
As long as Curt Cignetti's the head coach, they are going to be a contender in the Big Ten. He has righted this program, taken over arguably the worst program in the Big Ten and just vaulting them. Making the playoffs the first year was a shock. I thought last year they had more talent than his first year, and as you mentioned, ran the table. And when you look at this year's squad, let me take it back to my first conversation with Coach Cignetti when James Madison was coming up from FCS to FBS. They lost their all-conference quarterback, had no experience at QB, and was taking a large jump in level of competition. My coach, you're going to probably struggle at quarterback. He's like, Phil, I've had an all-conference quarterback every year I've been a head coach. We'll have one this year. And then they did. You know, he developed him once again. So I think Josh Hoover is going to step in and be that all-time conference quarterback that he's always had. And he's got a great supporting cast. Charlie Becker really emerged in the second half of last year. They had in Nick Marsh, who is Michigan State's top receiver. The offensive line's loaded. They got 3 starters back off last year's talented group. Defense loaded. You've got NFL calibers throughout. They did a good job in the portal once again. You know, the only game I do not have them favored this year is Ohio State on October 17th, and I've got that game pick 'em. So if you said Indiana ran the table of 12-0 again, I wouldn't bet against it. In fact, the over-under win total 10.5 on Indiana, I would lean with the over.
Wow. You know, and with that, you know, Indiana, Ohio State, 2 of the top teams in the Big Ten. You have Oregon, of course. You look at the overall landscape of the Big Ten, Phil. Who's your number 1 team in the Big Ten as we sit here right now?
You know, Justin, I actually went with a 3-way tie. I went Ohio State, Indiana, and Oregon. And it wouldn't surprise me if each one somewhere along the line dropped a game, but each one has tough games on the schedule. The thing that surprised me with Oregon this year is that Dante Moore's their quarterback. I thought he'd be playing in the NFL, a top 10 draft pick this year. When he opted to return, it was like, wow. So did all 4 starting defensive linemen opted to return. They've got one of the best defensive lines in the game, a shutdown corner, and Braden Finney. And the receiving core is banged up last year. Now they're healthy. I've rated the number 2 receiving core in the country. So this is a loaded Oregon team. Dan Lanning could very well have a team that is the 4th different Big Ten team to win a national title in 4 years. That would be shocking. But they do play Ohio State and USC on the road. I think those are the 2 key games. But the Ducks are a legitimate national title contender.
USC, you know, Ohio State plays at USC, but USC is obviously one of the most recognizable programs in all of college football. But the, you know, production on the field just hasn't matched the level of a caliber of a program that they are. What kind of season do you envision them having? Obviously, we keep waiting for that huge Lincoln Riley year where it's like, okay, we're in the Big Ten and we are here to be a threat in the Big Ten. Is this the year that they're in a legit threat in the Big Ten?
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, when I went over the roster with Coach Riley, he said, first of all, it's the best defense he's had here in the 5 years. They bring in Gary Patterson as defensive coordinator. They have 8 returning starters on defense. They have a very strong defense to go along with their normally potent offense. They rate their offensive line number 5. I'm on the Joe Moore Award Committee, one of the 21 award committees I'm on. I value offensive line play, and they've got one of the more veteran units in the country. They've got a veteran quarterback in Jaden Mayava, who Coach Riley feels will be a first-round draft pick at the end of the year. They've got receivers. They're young, but Riley always develops them. And then they're loaded at running back with both Wayman Jordan, King Miller, and a couple of VHT true freshmen back. Then you look at the schedule. They get Oregon at home, and they get Ohio State at home. They were 7-0 at home last year. And keep in mind how close they were to making the playoff last year. Illinois kicks that field goal in the final play of the game to beat them. And it's still, when they went to Oregon in the second last game, had they beaten Oregon in Autzen, they would have made the playoff last year. They lost that game. It's always tough to win in Autzen. But now they get Oregon at home. So getting Oregon and Ohio State at home, I think, makes it a legitimate threat to win the Big Ten this year, or at least get to the Big Ten title game.
Obviously, QB, the most important position out there. And you mentioned Oregon earlier with Dante Moore. You talked about, you know, the success with quarterbacks that Coach Cignetti has had at Indiana. You know, Michigan, we'll talk about them more in a moment, but they have Bryce Underwood, of course, Julian Sain at Ohio State. You know, we've talked about how you would rank the teams, but how do you rank the quarterbacks? Who's the number 1 quarterback, according to Phil Steele in the Big Ten?
Yeah, I could make a case for a whole handful of guys. If you said, okay, Phil, make the case for this guy being the number 1 quarterback, I could do it. Had to pick somebody. I went with the guy that probably would have been a top 10 draft pick this year, in Dante Moore. So I listed him 1, but I could make a case for any of the other guys. I've got Sayin 2 coming into the year. And, you know, he was just a true freshman last year. You go back to that Texas game when Ohio State had just 200 yards offense. I think they were holding them back a little bit. We saw him emerge late in the year, and now he's got a full season under his belt, a Big Ten title game, a playoff game under his belt, and thrown to the number 1 receiving core with a better offensive line in front of him. I think Julian Sain's going to be right up there as well.
Michigan, the drama with them just continues. New coach coming in though, and I'm not a Michigan guy. I'm an Ohio State fan, but I hate that they hired Kyle Whittingham. I think Kyle Whittingham is such a likable individual and such an accomplished coach. And I'm not going to lie to you, I was a little bummed when they hired Kyle Whittingham because I like Kyle Whittingham, but what kind of stabilizing force is he for a program that is just looking for a loud season on the field, but a quiet season off of it? I think he provides you that quiet season off of it, but how loud is Michigan going to be on the field this year?
Yeah, Justin, I was watching the coaching process, and coaches turn them down, and then all of a sudden they're throwing out names. I'm like, oh boy, Michigan's really going to hire a guy like that as the head coach? These guys are in trouble. And then they hired Kyle Whittingham. I'm like, bam. That is a big-time home run. Kyle Whittingham, one of the best head coaches out there. And the thing I love about Kyle Whittingham, at Utah, every single year he had a solid offensive line. Every single year he had an outstanding defense led by a solid defensive line. Every single year he had a solid special teams. In fact, won my special teams title a couple of years. And now he steps into Michigan. He'll develop that offensive line. They're going to be one of the top ones, one of the best defensive lines. He brings 4 key players with him, like John Henry Daly at defensive end, like Smith Snowden at cornerback, and then Bryce Underwood. I talked about Sands sort of held back a little bit early on. I think Bryce Underwood now in his second year, this guy's got all the talent in the world, and he's got a coordinator in Jason Beck who gets the most out of his players. You go back to 2 years ago, I had New Mexico. I looked at all the pieces New Mexico had. I'm like, oh, they're going to struggle on offense. And there they were at the end of the year putting up 35, 38 points per game with an explosive offense. And he did it again last year at Utah. This is a fundamentally sound football team with an outstanding head coach that inherited a lot of talent. They're up there on my experience chart. They bring in some quality transfers. Michigan's going to be a tough test. Now, Michigan could be 7-0 at one point this year, but they do have to play Indiana at home and then travel to Oregon and Ohio State. So I think the end of the season is going to be a true factor as to how big of a success Whittingham is.
Man, Phil, I was so upset. I was so annoyed with all the conference realignment, and I hated Oregon and USC, Washington coming to the Big Ten and all this. But then I'm sitting here in late July, and I just cannot wait for the Michigan-Oregon game, the Ohio State-Oregon, Ohio State-USC. I mean, Indiana has obviously always been in the Big Ten, but they're new money now to all this. Like, I think I was wrong. I kind of do like all these bigger programs in the Big Ten. It definitely just sets up so many more big matchups. Like it seems like every team we talk about, there's a stretch where it's like, man, I don't know if they could survive that. And that's what makes this so interesting.
Yeah, we have 2 elite conferences right now, Justin. We have the Big Ten and we have the SEC. And then there is a large gap to the ACC and the Big 12. So really, it is just amazing the gauntlet that these coaches have to go through on a weekly basis, playing all these top-notch teams in both the Big Ten and the SEC.
Phil Steele with us here as we wrap this up. The UC Bearcats in the Big 12, with all and I know Sorsby was not their quarterback. They lost him to Texas Tech. Sorsby not even going to play football this season. But it was a little bit of a noisy offseason with ties to that. But again, they're still, just trying to, gain their footing since moving over to the Big 12. Satterfield, still was able to retain his job and has an opportunity here, a couple years into the Big 12. How do you see the Bearcats and the 2026, 26 season for the Bearcats in the Big 12 unfolding?
I think Satterfield stepped into a tough situation his first 2 years. He had an inexperienced team taking the step up from the American to the Big 12. Second year, they were inexperienced again, almost made a bowl game, came very close to it. And then last year, they were rolling. Cincinnati looked great at 7-1. The end of the season was not great. And then, of course, to be mismatched in a bowl game like that, taking on an option team with half your team not playing against a team that played everybody in Navy, they really had no shot at winning the bowl game. But I think when you look at Cincinnati, they're strong in a couple areas that I like. I like the offensive line being strong. I'm on the Joe Moore Award Committee, and we had them up there as a semifinalist last year. I rate them as the number 14 offensive line in the country. I do think, even though they lose their top 3 backs, I like the running backs they have coming in. In fact, Coach Satterfield said it's the best running back room he's had since he's been here. And J.C. French, an excellent pickup at quarterback. This guy's a longtime veteran starter at Georgia Southern. He's a career passing leader of all time at Georgia Southern, and he steps in here working with a good receiving core. So I think the offense will be good. The linebacking core is solid despite losing a couple of key players. How quickly the defense comes together is going to be key. I think since he gets off to a great start, they do have a tough schedule. They got to play Arizona, West Virginia, Houston, BYU, all on the road this year. But I see him getting back to a bowl game, and I think Coach Satterfield will have him playing better at the end of the year.
All of college football 2026 summarized in 290 pages. It is of course, the 2026 Phil Steele College Football Preview magazine. It's available in digital form as well. The link for that we're live on YouTube and Facebook. So I have the link posted down below. Make sure you take advantage and get that there. We talked a lot of Ohio State and Big Ten, but Phil covers all conferences. So if you want to go and check that out, click on that link below and make sure you get your hands on that magazine. Phil, send us out. The Big Ten has won 3 straight national titles: Michigan, Ohio State, Indiana. Does that reign continue this year? Who is your national championship favorite on the way out?
And real quick, Justin, you shortchanged me 100 pages. It's 376 pages in this thing.
Oh, my goodness.
2 full pages on all 138 teams. It's getting to be like a phone book, if you can remember phone books. But as far as the Big Ten goes, I'd say they've got about a 50% chance of getting the number 4 in there. But I did go with Notre Dame. Notre Dame's got last year they had one of the top defenses in the country, 9 starters back on defense. They have 4 starters back on the offensive line. I rated the number 1 offensive line. They got C.J. Carr, quarterback. And unlike the Big Ten and SEC, they're taking on the number 66 schedule. The only games I've got them an underdog are the only games that are close are at BYU and Miami at home. I've got them favored in both. All the other games I've got them a 2-touchdown favorite. I like the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, whose motto this year is "Leave no doubt" after being left out of the playoffs.
There you go. You and this will actually help you too, Phil. The 290 pages that I was referencing, I had the wrong one pulled up because not only do you preview, all of college football with the high major, the Power 4 conferences, but 290 pages of the FCS preview magazine that's available as well. So that's what I had up.
There you go. 2 full pages on every FCS team, the same amount of coverage you get in the FBS. Can you imagine that? We're still working on that one right now, and we put up half of it just to give people a taste, but we'll get it all up by the end of next week.
Including the Dayton Flyers in there too. So good stuff there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we could do a show on Dayton, Justin. I can get my my FCS guy, Chris, knows the FCS inside and out. Have him on the air. He'll blow you away with his knowledge of the FCS.
Absolutely. Hey, Phil, thank you so much for your time. We look forward to this every year having you on, and we're looking forward to the season coming up as well. But as always, and we appreciate your time.
Always great talking football with you, Justin. Thanks for having me on.
ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
Partly cloudy and 58 overnight. We'll see sunshine at 81 for today, Friday, and Saturday mostly sunny at 84. I'm Rick Schrempf for 1410 ESPN Radio.
Swing by Frickers today and treat yourself to our irresistible ribs and chunks special. Enjoy tender, saucy ribs grilled to perfection, paired with your choice of frickin' chicken chunks, boneless wings, or traditional wings, plus homemade slaw, your favorite side, and a roll, all for just $16.99. Don't forget, kids eat free all day, every day at Frickers. So bring the whole family for great food, family fun, and all the sports action you crave. At your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits, Frickers.
Here's the deal. The government is over $38 trillion in debt, which means the IRS isn't slowing down. And the tax code is complex and unforgiving. So it's not surprising if you're one of the millions of Americans that owe back taxes to the IRS. Unfortunately, they're the world's most powerful collection agency, with the ability to garnish your wages, seize your bank accounts, and even take your home or business. But don't be stressed or worried any longer. We're Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted tax resolution firm. We have resolved over $3 billion in tax debt for our clients. Our award-winning professionals deal with the IRS every single day, protecting our clients and preparing them for the best possible resolution. For tax help you need, for tax help you can trust, give Optima a call today.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
From the Montgomery County Clerk of Court's office, I'm Shannon Crabtree. Join us for Clerk Mike Foley's award-winning Connecting with the Community Speaker Series, connecting citizens to local leaders. Join us on Tuesday, August 18th, when Montgomery County Commissioners Judy Dodge and Carolyn Rice update citizens on innovative programs and projects shaping the future of our region. That's Connecting with the Community from 6 to 7 p.m. at the Employment Opportunity Center in the Westtown Shopping Center on West 3rd Street in Dayton. Another example of how Clerk Mike Foley is bringing the courthouse to you.
Cordell Transportation is looking for more weekend warriors. If you have a Class A CDL and would like to make some extra money casually driving weekend daytime routes, then Cordell Transportation is looking for you. Home daily, all loads round trip, no touch freight, and competitive pay. Full-time routes could become available if you're interested. Drive weekends at Cordell Transportation. Apply at CordellTransportation.com or call Ron at 937-277-7271. Cordell Transportation, driven to succeed.
If there's one thing you can count on, it's 24/7 protection when you bundle home and auto insurance with Progressive. And if there's two things you can count on, it's your smoke detector battery dying at 3 a.m. Not 3 p.m. on a Saturday when you have nothing going on, but in the middle of the night when you're fast asleep.
Oh, come on!
Get 24/7 protection when you bundle home and auto with Progressive. Just one more thing you can count on. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and third-party insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
Hey everybody, it's Stephen A. Smith, and everyone knows my feelings on Cowboys fans. But really, Justin Kenner, you're a Cowboys fan and a Browns fan? Good Lord have mercy. I don't know what the hell to do with y'all. I really don't.
Exactly, Stephen A. He's been here for 10 years, and we're still trying to figure him out. The Justin Kenner Show, weekdays at 3 p.m. right here on